Hey everyone, it's Monica. Welcome back to Homeschool Voices. Today I'm going to share with you a Socratic discussion I had with my son. In today's video, I'm going to give you an example of what a Socratic discussion can look like. A Socratic discussion is a technique in which you try to lead the student to a certain understanding. Now, sometimes you can do that in a very open-ended way, and sometimes you can do that in a very specific way where you're really trying to guide them towards a more specific conclusion. The video that I made of my conversation with my son is a bit more vague. It's more exploratory. He learned about taxes. He's doing a paper where he had to form an opinion. But before he formed an opinion, we had a discussion where I asked him all kinds of questions to help him ferret out what his opinion was and to try to start to teach him how to back his opinion up with some sort of logical thought, right? Because again, if you watch my previous video, which I will link to at the end of this video, you will see that the way that the American public school system is set up is we have an authority figure. That authority figure says, hey, this is what you need to know. You need to memorize it, and don't question if these facts are true or not. Just memorize them, and then we will do it again and again every week for 13 years. This is what we do not want to do in a homeschool setting. We really want to teach our kids to be critical thinkers and to take in information that they are presented with and decide if it's good information. Whereas in the public school system, for the most part, the only thinking kids are encouraged to do is to decide if that authority figure is trustworthy. And when they turn and they grow into adults, you will hear them say, are you an expert? That's just the extension of the childhood scenario that is set up in the public schools. So when you're a kid, it's your teacher. When you're an adult, it's an expert. And once you've decided that that person is an expert, you believe most of what they say. Again, we don't want that. We want a person who grows up and questions things, who gets information and really says, does this make sense? And yes, they will get information probably from experts, but they won't just accept that as fact on its face. They will actually analyze the information and form an opinion about it. That's not always exactly what an expert told them to believe. I hope that that's helpful. I hope when you watch the video, you will get a better idea of what I mean by a Socratic discussion. Check it out.
They're used for a lot of different things, and they're used for things like Social Security and healthcare and city parks and things that the government needs money for, but that it doesn't necessarily have the money for. They tax us so we can have nice things like parks and stuff.
Okay, and what about, you were learning about flat taxes versus progressive taxes? Tell me about that. What'd you learn?
Well, flat taxes means that you pay the same rate for everyone. So, if you say have a guy who makes $500,000 every year, then he's gonna pay, if he pays a 10% tax rate with a flat tax, he's gonna pay $50,000 in taxes. But if you have a guy who just makes, $50,000 every year, then you're gonna only have a guy who makes $5,000.
Yeah.
But they both pay the same rate, so they eventually ended up having that. And then some people might say, but this guy still has more money after this guy, so we should tax him more so they have the same amount of money. But if you have a flat tax, the reason the person who has less money is because he either probably didn't work as hard to get a better job, or he just doesn't work as hard. So he might work 2 hours a week, but it's just a little example, like 2 hours a week. Another guy might work 7 hours a week, so he gets more money. So the flat tax makes it so, and I think it would also make it so people would want to get, it would make the economy boom, because people would be like, oh, but everyone's paid the same rate, so I can work more or get a better job, and then I can make more money too.
Okay, so let me just play the devil's advocate again. And so a lot of people who make $50,000 a year work. Do you know what a typical work week is? How many hours?
50?
No, it's 40.
40.
Would be, 40-hour week.
Mhm.
That'd be 5 days, 8 hours a day each day. So, a lot of people who make $50,000 are going to be working 50, 60-hour weeks because they get paid a low amount. I mean, I haven't done the math, but I think that works out with even with a $12, $15 minimum wage, I think. My point being that if you're getting paid a low wage, you can really work your buns off. So you have to be careful with this idea of they're not working as hard because it's not necessarily true. But maybe what they're doing, well, I don't want to say too much. I just want to point out that somebody could be working quite hard and make $50,000, whereas somebody who makes $500,000 could work a nice 40, 45-hour week and make $500,000, and they're working, but it's like probably more of a desk job, so not as physically demanding. So what do you?
Well, yes, but probably what they did, they probably had to, in the long term, they probably put more effort into getting that job or getting that degree that they needed to do that. They might have spent an extra 2 years in college to get, a higher degree so they could have a higher paying job and still work less hours. But someone could not even go to college and not just want to because maybe they're lazy, and then they couldn't get as good of a job.
Or maybe they don't like school.
Or maybe they don't like school, and they don't want to get it, and they don't get good of it as a job.
I mean, on that note, there's people that, I think if you want to be an electrician, you don't go to college and you can make, a decent living. I think you could start out at 60, 70,000, which isn't bad in a lot of parts of the country. So it's not lazy not to go to college per se. It's just, I don't know, just a different choice. But you are right. I mean, typically people are going to make more money if they go to college. So I think sounds like what you're saying is, well, maybe they went to college and they played that game and they made more money.
And then they may be paid for college, but then they made more money so they could pay it off.
True. But so what would you? So if somebody might come and say, hey, yeah, but this guy making $50,000, he's working really hard, and this guy making $500,000 isn't. So you would say, well, but maybe he did a lot of other work to get to where he was.
Maybe
Is that what you're saying?
he made a lot of other work to get where he was. Like self-made millionaires, they don't just get millionaires. They have to work their butt off in the beginning to get to where they are,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's easier. But if you don't, you can still be working your butt off, but you have to have a good idea. So they had to put the time in to have a good idea for what they're doing. They might have to put their time in to find someone who will give them a loan maybe to get started up, and then they can build their business and they can maybe work less because their business is making money for them.
I agree that that's probably true a lot of the time, but do you acknowledge that maybe there could be times where people are making a lot of money and maybe they inherited a job from their father, or they inherited a business maybe and they didn't necessarily have to build it and they just make a lot of money and
Yeah, but
possible.
Yeah, that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, you inherited that business, right? But when you inherit that business, it makes it so you made that money. But your father before you was the sort of person who does that, and if you don't work and do stuff, your business is gonna fail, and then you're gonna have to be back to doing whatever you did.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have if you're making $50,000 a year and you do that, but you're working, I don't know, at like a lower paying job,
Mm-hmm.
you could easily switch to a higher paying job and start making $100,000 a year.
I don't know about easily.
Well, not easily, but you could you start making $70,000 a year,
Maybe, yeah.
and then you could do that. And once you have, say you were working at a lower class filming company, and then you went up to a slightly higher class. Then the person who has the high class is like, oh well, this guy has some experience down here. This is where we go most of our people, so we'll bring him over to here, and then you might do that. But if you just stay here and work your butt off, but you don't try to make new opportunities for yourself, it might not happen.
I have a question for you. Did you know there's companies where everyone gets paid the same? Like everyone, no matter what job they do, whether they're the president or whether they work what would normally be considered like a lower level job. Do you know there's some companies, not many, it's owned by everyone and they all get an equal share of profits.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I haven't really seen like an actual, like I haven't been to one, or I don't know the names of one, but I've heard of them.
What do you think, because we're talking about, this whole discussion comes from the taxes, right? The person who gets, because you're talking about flat tax, and someone who gets paid $50,000 versus $500,000, and then we're talking, well, yeah, but it's not fair because this $50,000 employee works really hard, and why should they get paid so much less? Because that's what people will say, and that's why they think that the flat tax isn't fair. Some people will say that, and that got me thinking about the companies where everyone gets paid the same. And then I wonder, what do you, and I'm sure that there's an answer to this, but just what do you think that would do? What effect do you think that would have on the employees, the workers at the company, to all get paid the same?
I don't know. I feel like you can see it two different ways.
Okay.
But the way that I would see it is maybe people might get a little more lazy because they're all getting paid the same amount, and they're not trying to get a certain amount because they won't. It's not like you can, because if you're all getting paid the same amount, then it's going to be hard for you to get paid more, and everyone else is going to get paid more. So when you get a pay raise, everyone else gets a pay raise.
So when you put in a bunch of effort, it might have, it sounds like you're saying if I put a bunch of effort in on my job, I might get a teeny bit of a benefit from it because it gets averaged out for everybody. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and also if you bust your butt and maybe at one of these companies and you work super duper hard, but you don't, but it's one of the things where everyone gets paid the same, it's not going to be much different. So if you get a pay raise, everyone else is going to get a pay raise. So if they say, you're doing a good job, you get a pay raise. Now everyone else gets a pay raise too. Then it's like, oh, well, I just worked really hard for that. And now I feel like they're sort of
benefiting.
Yeah, benefiting off of my, work.
Yeah. So what do you think somebody would say who had, because obviously some people like this, that's why there's companies like that. So what do you think they would say about my question? What do you think they would say when I ask, how would that affect the employees? How would that affect the workers? Because they're not going to say what you say, or they wouldn't want to do it.
Well,
so what would they say?
Well, they would probably say something along the lines of, well, everyone gets the same amount of pay, so there's no, everyone probably works diligently, and everyone works the same amount. So they'd probably say something along the lines of that everyone works the same amount. Everyone gets the same amount of pay, so they're incentivized to each work about the same amount, because they know if they work this hard, they might get this, and if they all work this harder, they might get this.
Well, and also let's look at it in the opposite. What if the company does poorly because people are not working hard? Then how does that affect the employees?
Well, then the employees might work harder, because they don't want their company to fail and do that.
And I think that's what people would say.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to look at, well, and what do you, What do you think would be the bigger motivation for people to keep the company from doing poorly, like in a company like this, or to make it do really, really well? What do you think is the biggest, stronger motivation psychologically for employees in a company where everyone gets an equal share of all the profits?
Probably to keep it from doing poorly.
And
Well,
and
to
why is
keep it.
that?
Well, because if they know if they work less hard, and they, if they all work less hard, then they're gonna be. If they all work less hard, then their company's gonna plummet and they might lose their job. But if they work diligently and they keep working, and it's like can keep at it, then they know their company's gonna do fine. And
Got it. All right. Well, I think that's a good. So, what are you going to write your paper about?
probably flat taxes.
Okay, that's cool. We'll probably learn more about it, and we'll figure out some questions to get answered there. And that's it. Well, thank you for being on my show.
So there you go. There's just one example of how a Socratic discussion can go. I will try to post a few more because I think it's so important that we start to teach our kids to be critical thinkers, that I want to give more examples for you guys. If you have any questions about Socratic discussions, please put them in the comments below. If you have any ideas for any other videos you'd like me to make, let me know there too. If you like this video, please click thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, please click subscribe and the notification bell next to it. In the meantime, happy homeschooling and have a great day.